This course is a beginning course in Java programming. We don't expect you to have any background using a programming language, although I do expect you to have a certain amount of background with using computers. You need to be able to work a text editor. You need to understand about file systems, at least about directories and subdirectories to some extent. If not, you might want to brush up on those things before you continue on with the course. This course will cover several introductory topics in Java. I'll list a few of them for you right now. First of all, we're going to talk about how the Java compiler works. After that, we're going to talk about data types and variables. Those are the building blocks of all programming languages. Then we're going to talk about how to do arithmetic in Java. So we'll be talking about arithmetic operators and expressions, simply how to do arithmetic. After that, we'll talk some about input and output. In other words, how to get data into your programs and how to get data out of your programs. Next, we'll talk about how to make decisions in your Java programs using if statements. Then we'll talk about performing repetition. And this chapter will talk about loops such as the while loop and the for loop. Next, we'll talk about methods. Methods are the same thing as functions. So we'll talk about how to write methods and how to use them in your program. We'll spend a lot of time talking about object-oriented programming, everything from just how to build a class to more advanced topics such as inheritance and polymorphism. We'll also talk about various data structures to use in your program, such as arrays and array lists. And we'll also talk about text file processing, how to read and write text files. And that's not a comprehensive list. There's some other topics we'll also be discussing, but those are the main areas we'll be covering in the course. Now, I mentioned earlier that you need to have a certain familiarity with computers to do well in this course. However, what you will absolutely have to know how to use is a text editor. It won't matter what kind. I'll be using Notepad for Windows, but any text editor at all will work. And then the other thing you'll have to have is a copy of Java Software Development Kit. And in the next lesson, I'll be talking about how to download that from the internet. So I guess another requirement is you need to have an internet connection or the means to get a copy of the Software Development Kit, also called the Java SDK. So that's what we're going to cover in the course. I hope you'll enjoy the course. Java is a great programming language. It's very popular. It's probably the most popular programming language out there right now. It's not a hard language to learn. It's easier than a language such as C++, for example. But, this course is going to take a little bit of work, but I promise you, if you pay attention to my lessons, work the exercises, and do some work on your own, you do well in the course. To get started programming in Java, we need to download and install the compiler and the Java virtual machine that we'll use to create and run programs. So open your browser and go to oracle.com/technetwork/java/index.html. And when you get there, select the Downloads tab. Scroll down and look for Java SE under Browse by Category and select that link. Then down towards the bottom, I'll scroll it up a little bit. Under Java Platform Standard Edition, we have the Download JDK button. Select that. Pick your platform. I'm installing on Windows, so I select Windows. Click the button to agree to the license agreement. Then click Continue. There's one file to select, the exe file. Select it, click Save File, and then we begin the download process. When we're finished downloading this file, the auto installer will begin, and it'll give us all the options we need. We're going to make standard default selections for the most part, unless you don't want to put the software in the default directory. And you can change that if you want to. I'll select the default, and we'll see what that is in just a moment. But keep in mind that it's going to install it under program files in Windows. So if you don't like to install things under program files, then you can make another selection at that time. Other than that, the installation is really quite simple. Now we're coming to the end. All right, double-click the file. Click Next. It tells us what it's going to install: development tools, demos and samples, source code, and JavaDB. We won't use most of that in this course, but that's part of the standard installation. We're getting another version of the Java runtime environment. That's to run Java programs, not necessarily the ones that we're going to create, but ones that you get from the internet or other places. You probably already had that installed on your computer, but now you have a more up-to-date version. All right, I'll leave product registration information up to you. Click Finish. I'm not going to set this up right now, so I'm going to close this tab. Let me show you where the file is. We'll go to Computer, scroll down to Program Files, look for a directory called Java, and there it is right there. Before we can begin programming in Java, we need to take a minute and look at the environment that we just installed. We also need to make one system setting to make our programming easier. So open up Computer in Windows, then double-click the C drive, then find the folder where you installed Java. I put mine inside Program Files, and if you followed the default installation, you did also. Then find the Java folder in there. It's right here. And the JDK we installed is in this folder right here, JDK 1.6.0_24. Double-click that folder. You see another series of folders and some other files. There's really only one folder that we're particularly interested in, and that's the bin folder, so double-click that. There's two files that we're looking for. The first of these is Java, which is the Java virtual machine, and Java C, which is the Java compiler. So both of those are found, let's back up one, in the bin folder of JDK 1.6.0_24. Now, so we don't have to type this path or refer to this path over and over again, what we're going to do is we're going to add the path to our path statement in Windows. Go to the control panel, look for System, double-click it, and then we're going to go to Advanced System Settings. And what we're going to do is we're going to change the path environment variable. So click the button that says Environment Variables. There's our path. Select Edit. It takes us to the very end. Hit the right arrow one time to get the highlighting off and put the cursor after that semicolon and type C:\/ Program Files /Java /JDK 1.6.0_24 /bin semicolon, and then OK. And click OK again, and OK again, and close that out. Now every time we want to run the Java compiler or the Java runtime, rather than have to type the whole path, we can just type the command directly, and Windows will find the command in the correct path. In this chapter, we're going to introduce Java programming by writing the first program that most programmers write in a language, a program that displays Hello World on the screen. In this first lesson, we're going to see how to enter the program into the text editor. That's our first step. The first thing we want to do is open up a DOS prompt, get to your Documents folder, wherever your documents are stored, and then to make it easy to retrieve the programs that we work on, create a directory inside your Documents folder, or create a folder called Java. I'm doing it by typing MD Java for make directory. Once you've done that, then you can change directories into that folder by typing CD Java for change directory. And that puts us in the Java folder. Now I'm going to clear the screen to make sure that our screen is clear. Now we want to begin writing the program, so we have to create a file to store our program. Programs are stored in files, and then the compiler is run on that file. So we're going to do that by calling Notepad with the name of the file. Now let's spend a second and talk about how Java programs are named, or the files are named. They have to begin with a capital letter, and I'll explain why in a moment, and then they also have to have a .java extension. The compiler looks for that when you try to compile the program, and without it, the program won't compile. So, capital letter to start the file name, and a Java extension. Now we're ready to open the file, so just hit enter at this point, and ask us if we want to create a new file, and we say yes. The first thing we type is the words public class and then the name of the file. This is actually the name of a class because every Java program is itself a class. And notice that my class name is the same as my file name, including the capital letter, and that's very important. Classes in Java have to begin with the capital letter. The capital W in world is not that important, but I like to separate my words with capital letters to make it easy to read a multi-word name. So that's why I capitalize the W, but the H has to be capitalized. Drop down to the next line and type an opening brace. The brace signifies that we're beginning the definition of the class, and we'll be talking a lot more about that. And then indent at least 3 spaces or 2 spaces. It doesn't really matter so much as long as you indent some. Then type the words public static void main, open parenthesis, capital S, string, open and close brackets, and then the word args. Just like that. Public static void main string args. Very quickly, I'll explain why we do this. The compiler is looking for a method called main. The compiler looks for that as the place to begin compiling the program. So every class at some point has to have a public static void main, or just a main method somewhere in it. All our program's going to do is print hello world, so we'll have the main method right here without anything else. Underneath that, put an opening curly brace. This brace signifies the beginning of what's called a block. All methods have blocks. The block is where the code that goes inside the method is contained. Drop down to the next line and indent from there, and then type the word system.out.print line, LN, not the whole word line, but we say print line because it makes more sense than saying print loon. It's hard to say. It doesn't make any sense. Open parenthesis, double quote, hello world, exclamation point, close double quote, close parenthesis, and then a semicolon. Let me explain a little bit about what we're doing here. We're wanting to print the phrase hello world to the screen. The screen, or the terminal, or the console, is represented by system.out. And as we go through the course, I'll explain more about what all that means. We have to tell that object, if you want to think of it as an object, what to do, and what we want to do is we want to print a line, and the line we want to print is hello world. And then we end that with the semicolon. I'll be explaining all this syntax quite a bit as we go through the course. We close the block with a closing curly brace, and then we close the class definition with another closing curly brace. And that finishes up the program, and that's all we have to write. And again, it's okay if you don't understand what every single piece of this means. We'll be discussing it a lot more throughout the course, but this is what we have to have a working program. Before we end this lesson, let's save the file. So we're going to click File Save to make sure it's saved, and now we're finished. So in the next video, I'm going to show you how to compile and run this program.